Good morning. A number of developments have occurred in the investigation surrounding the death of Nex Benedict. A collection of recordings were released to the public that provide clarity or correction to the events surrounding the fight that occurred at the Owasso High School on February 7th, as well as Nex's death the following day. I encourage you to watch these videos and audio recordings for yourself in full before rushing to any judgment. I have seen a number of well-meaning people picking out certain lines and deciding that is now the most important aspect of this story. This case is just like any other in which each new revelation changes our perspective. It should be stated up front, we still do not know the cause of death, and given everything we've learned as of Friday, it's important that we wait for that before casting further blame on anyone. That said, here's a breakdown of everything we learned on Friday the 23rd to the best of my ability using everything I could find. Two videos were released showing security camera footage from inside the school. One is a lengthy video from inside the cafeteria where a number of students were shown picking up chairs. We see 6 students enter this restroom. A few seconds later, we see Nex fill up a water bottle. A few seconds after that, Nex and 2 other people enter the same restroom. 19 seconds after Nex enters the bathroom, a faculty member rushes there. 15 seconds after that, all students walk out of the restroom. The second security camera video shows Nex being escorted by a member of school security from the nurse's office to the principal's office, and then finally leaving the school with Sue Benedict. Here's what this clarifies. The original narrative provided to us when this story first broke last week involved Nex being brutally beaten in that bathroom so bad they could not physically support themselves. We have at least seen footage of Nex being able to walk under their own power through multiple hallways and out to the parking lot. Here's what this does not clarify: how long the fight was. These videos are being spliced together to show all relevant moments, such as people entering or leaving spaces, the filling up of the water bottle, Nex walking on their own. The videos were also edited to protect the identities of all minors involved. I'm unclear as to whether the fight actually only lasted the few seconds that are shown, or whether it was longer and the school simply didn't see fit to release 90 seconds of an empty cafeteria. There were 2 911 calls released, both from Sue Benedict. The first was on February 7th, once she and Nex had already arrived at the hospital. Sue presents the narrative to the operator that 3 girls attacked Nex, and the school's only action was to tell Sue to come pick the child up. There is no mention of Nex's friend. In the background, you can hear Nex telling someone they were attacked or jumped by 3 girls in the bathroom. This may have been where the original narrative originated. The call is quick and ends with the operator saying that they will send an officer to the hospital. That's when we arrive at the body cam video. It is 21 minutes long, and there is a lot of information that we learn. Highly encourage you to watch this video for yourself. I'm going to list what I think are the most essential pieces of information in the interest of brevity. Officer Caleb Thompson arrives and is greeted warmly by Sue and Nex. They've clearly interacted before, which is clarified when Nex mentions the people they were caught with in the vaping situation, which is ostensibly the school violation that resulted them being in-school suspension. The 3 girls in question are freshmen, not older girls, as was originally reported. Nex states before being placed in ISP together, they did not know each other and had never interacted. During their days together in ISP, Nex and their friend had been on the receiving end of verbal bullying from these girls, but did not report it to the school as they did not believe the school would do anything about it. Nex specifically cites jabs about the way they dress and laugh. Nex recounts they couldn't take it anymore, filled a water bottle, and poured water on one of the girls in the bathroom. It was at that time that the fight broke out. The girls grabbed Nex's hair, Nex grabbed back, Nex threw one girl into a paper towel dispenser, then Nex describes their legs being pulled out from under them and going to the floor, hitting their head. Then their friend tried to jump in, but Nex doesn't know what happened as they blacked out after that. Officer Thompson states that the school should have called him and that, quote, they dropped the ball on this one. The officer advised Sue that she has every right as the guardian to call the police to be at the school if the school does not call. The officer informs the Benedicts that assault and battery could be filed as this was unwanted touch. He also advises that the courts would see both Nex and the other girls equally as victims and offenders because of Nex throwing the water. He states that unfortunately what the girls said to Nex repeatedly is not a crime. He does clarify repeatedly that words can be a crime if they are a direct threat. He states that while Nex should not have thrown water, that does not then give the girls the right to lay hands on them. Sue said the school informed her they were planning to call the police to report the incident, but they were going to wait 24 to 48 hours to do so in order to gather all documentation. Officer Thompson reaffirms this is not what they should have done. The officer says that even if they don't pursue criminal charges, they could still sue civilly or they could get a protective order, and continues to offer other options. The officer affirms that Sue can change her mind. If she wants to press charges tomorrow, she can. Here's where I'd like to pause pause and offer some thoughts. Something you may not know about me is that my degree is in criminal justice with an emphasis in juvenile studies, and I worked in the juvenile justice system in 2 different states. Now, I don't want to overstate my qualifications, as I was also cut due to budget cuts during the housing crisis, and therefore only spent maybe 3 years working in the juvenile court system dealing with probation and detention. I'm telling you this because I have seen bad cops who should not have their jobs. I have seen bad cops who walk into a room with someone like Nex and treat them like they are guilty and everything out of their mouth is a lie. I have seen cops talk over kids and parents or say very little and not provide them with all their options. When reviewing this video, I did not see a bad cop doing a bad job. I saw an officer who was compassionate, who said in the video repeatedly, "I got you, I'm with you, I support you." I saw an officer who laid out all possible options and also gave advice, which he did not need to do to a family in a moment of crisis. I have seen this video characterized as the officer talking Sue out of pressing charges. That is not what I see at all. I see an officer who told Sue repeatedly she absolutely could press charges, and even if she doesn't want to press them today, she could wake up tomorrow and decide to press charges then. However, Nex would likely also be charged, and in the end, the courts would very likely side with whoever was the first victim of unwanted touch. In this case, the girls, with Nex being the one who would most likely suffer from a mark on their juvenile record and further social stigma as a criminal, not to mention the possibility of lawyers' fees, time out of school, work, and the stress of a court case that would very likely still end with Nex being the one assuming the most guilt. I also saw an officer who repeatedly said that the school dropped the ball by not contacting him. The school should have been informed of the bullying, and if nothing was done, there may have been culpability there. That opens up further questions as to whether the school official in charge of the ISP group was ever aware of the bullying and chose to ignore it. Now, finally, we heard the second 911 call made on February 8th when Sue called to report that Nex was posturing, with hands curling in and trouble breathing. Sue repeats that Nex hit their head during the altercation and states she had asked the hospital to check out her head as she was afraid of head injury trauma. Sue described Nex as having shallow breath, eyes rolled back, and posturing. The operator asks if Nex takes any medication. Sue says yes at night, clarifies that these medications are fluoxetine and quetiapine for anxiety and mood swings. Fluoxetine is also known as Prozac and is an SSRI antidepressant. Quetiapine is also known as Seroquel, an antipsychotic. Sue also tells the operator Nex has vaped, but denies that they could have gotten into a vape with something in it. Sue says she doesn't need to begin CPR and says she was a nurse or went to nursing school. Operator asks if Nex has a history of seizure. Sue says no. The call ends when the paramedics arrive, and Nex is later pronounced dead at the hospital. I know this video was a lot, but we owe it to Nex and to everyone involved to get this right. We owe it to every kid who is a victim of bullying to get this right. We also owe it to ourselves to ensure that justice is done, which is why I cannot stress strongly enough that 1, people have got to quit calling and harassing the school and any of their employees. 2, you all have got to quit trying to get the identifying information of the 3 girls demanding that they be tried as adults for murder. And 3, a lot of people are now very quick to say Nex started this. They fucked around and found out. As though splashing water in someone's face when you're a queer person should be a death sentence. We get it, conservatives in my comment section. You can demonize us and call us groomers and pedophiles and freaks and as many anonymous commenters love using it all day long. But if any of us ever match your energy or splash a drink in your face, that's all the excuse you need to see us dead without remorse. After all, you spent years dehumanizing us and painting a target on our back and made us the subject of ridicule, but sure, water. We brought it on ourselves. People on both sides need to understand that there are no angels here, and that insisting that any person involved is utterly blameless in order to justify your hatred or your call for mob rule is ignoring what Officer Thompson continued to point out. Both groups of people, in the eyes of the law, are both victim and offender. We still do not know what the actual cause of death was, and given everything that has now been revealed, we owe it to Nex and the concept of seeing justice done to wait for that information. A number of vigils were held for Nex this weekend. Let's honor their memory and the memory of the thousands of marginalized kids who die every year without the world's attention by showing some grace in our discourse and restraint in our rush to judgment. Hope this helps.